You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button. One of the things we do each week after LSU plays is we take a peek at the Pro Football Focus grades. And what we always point out here with Pro Football Focus is that Pro Football Focus is a metric. It's not the metric. It's just something to consider. And so we take a look at it and see what the guys and gals over at Pro Football Focus thought of how LSU did that week. And maybe not surprising is how this graded out. If you look at the highest graded players, JVR Suggs, Ashton Stamps, Gio Paez, Zy Alexander, Aaron Anderson. If you look offense, defense, those are the highest graded players among those that played the majority of the snaps. Suggs was awesome in his pass rush snaps. He graded out at 88.0. Stamps and Zy Alexander, clearly, I mean, when Connor Wegman was in the game, he completed 6 passes. And Marcel Reed only attempted 2. So naturally, your cornerbacks graded out okay. Paez did pretty well in the middle, graded at 71.5, and then Aaron Anderson, we know, had a really nice day. But I think that's not so much what everyone's interested in on this day. What everyone's probably more interested in is who's at the bottom, and this is very telling. Lowest graded player, according to Pro Football Focus, offense or defense, was Whit Weeks. And that is surprising considering how good he's been. But I think it's also illustrative of what happened. Because through 3.5 quarters, you were dominating that team. Like, that's not me saying it as an LSU guy. Your defense was so dominant, they benched their quarterback. I'll go through it again. Texas A&M's drives under Connor Wegman. Punt, fumble, touchdown. Punt, turnover on downs, punt. Marcel Reed came into the game. You didn't have a plan, and what happened. Whit Weeks, your lowest graded player. Will Campbell, your second lowest graded player. Greg Penn is next. Paul Mabenga, who went in and replaced Garrett Dellinger, who left in the second quarter with that ankle injury. And then Parashand. By the way, if you just look at the offensive side, the 5 lowest graded players on offense were all offensive linemen. Shouldn't be a surprise. You couldn't run the football. And then late in the game when you were down and you had to throw it, they knew it. They pinned their ears back. They came after you. It's disappointing, obviously, that it played out the way it did because you felt like you were in command of that game and then it got away. The lack of a running game is something that is so obvious right now for LSU. And it's something Brian Kelly talked about when he was asked about Garrett Nussmeier throwing interceptions. He chose not necessarily to talk about Garrett Nussmeier, but instead about the running game. Number 4.
You know, it's hard for me to sit here right now and give you an in-detailed evaluation of, you know, what happened, but we did not get the kind of production that would keep a Garrett Nussmeier from having to stand on his freaking head, you know, at the quarterback position and making plays. He feels like he has to. And in a large degree, look, I get it, right? I mean, he's going to be, you know, the guy that we all blame. I just don't think we give him enough balance within the offense, and it makes him vulnerable because he has to do so much.
I'll say this specifically about, and Brian Kelly's right. Because you are so bad at running the football. By the way, LSU's 111th in the country. There's 134 FBS programs. LSU's 111 in rushing offense. You are so heavily imbalanced toward the pass because of your struggles to run. You are asking Garrett Nussmeier to be darn near perfect. And he spoiled us because for so much of this season, he has been. I mean, he is the reason, in spite of your lack of a running game, you're one of the best and most productive offenses in the SEC because Garrett has been that good. He has been able to compensate and overcome the lack of a running game. What happened on Saturday is the thing that we all sort of talked about as the bugaboo, the Achilles heel. The good news for Garrett is it hasn't showed up really this year. Look, he threw 2 interceptions against South Alabama. Brian Kelly talked about it. They were both in situations where LSU was up. He got a little lazy and threw a ball he shouldn't have thrown. Against Ole Miss, he threw an interception that was a tip pass. I mean, just tip your cap to Ole Miss. Guy got a paw on it, tipped it in the air, it was intercepted. They made a play. There aren't many this year where you look and go, that was a bad decision. Until Saturday, when he made 3 of them. And it cost you. But I'm not going to crush Garrett Nussmeier because you aren't even in the position you're in this year without him being what he's been. There is sort of this question of, like, how do you get the running game going? And to be perfectly honest with you, and I don't mean for this to sound defeatist, but you've played 8 games now over 9 weeks. This is what you are. Like, you're not going to just all of a sudden find this dynamic running game. Yes, there are wrinkles and schemes that you could try against a certain opponent that may work. I mean, I think about the 2021 season when you were not very good. But that was the year where Ty Davis-Price set the LSU single-game rushing record against Florida because they could not stop the counterplay. It's just a really bizarre, historic, record-setting one-off. So that may happen. But if you are looking to extrapolate something as the sample size grows, this is what I'll tell you. LSU, undeniably, has struggled to run the football. I just told you, they're 111th in the country in rushing offense, 115 yards a game. Have you looked at who they've played? How about this? Ole Miss has the number 1 rushing defense in the country. UCLA is 13th in the country in rush defense. South Carolina, 16th in the country in rush defense. Texas A&M, 18th in the country in rush defense. You've played 4 teams in the top 18 in America in rush defense. The 2 lowest rated, now I'm not talking about South Alabama or McNeese, of the Power 5 teams you play. The 2 lowest rated are Arkansas and USC. Arkansas is 37th, Southern Cal is 58th. And you got going on the ground in the second half with John Emery against Southern Cal. And you're a dramatically different team now. You weren't playing Caden Durham then, but anyway. So throw that one out if you want. But Arkansas, 37th, among all the teams I just mentioned, has the least effective run defense, and they're 37th in the country. The least effective, the lowest rated of all the teams you played, and you fared pretty well running the ball against them. You fared really well in the second half against South Carolina as well when Caden Durham got going. So if you want reason for optimism, and I'm not painting a rosy picture here for you, I'm just laying out facts, and you can take it for what it's worth and do with it what you will. I just told you, Ole Miss first, UCLA 13th, South Carolina 16th, A&M 18th, Arkansas 37th in run defense. Next up is Alabama. A week from Saturday, they're 69th in the country in run defense. Then you go to Florida, they're 94th. The next 2 opponents that you play are the 2 worst run defenses that you're going to play all year. Then you play Vanderbilt, who's 28th, and Oklahoma, who's 21st. 2 more very good run defense. So for context, again, By the time this year is done, and we'll see where all the numbers finish, but you will play teams in rush defense that are 1st, 13th, 16th, 18th, 21st, 28th, 37th. You're facing really good defensive fronts as well. Now, we all thought, my hand's in the air. My hand is high in the air. That I thought this LSU offensive line was going to be awesome. And they have been in pass protection. They have been the antithesis of that in run blocking. They just have not been good. They've been going against very good rush defenses, but we expected LSU to fare well against good run defenses, and they have not. So what do you do when, for lack of a better phrase, you're punching at your own weight, which appears to be the case when you face Alabama and Florida in the next 2 games? That might be more representative of what it looks like when LSU goes against someone sort of comparable to them on their front. See if maybe you can get going a week from Saturday running the football a little bit against, which will be at the time, weird to say because it's Alabama and the reputation they have. But when you face them, Alabama will be the lowest rated run defense you have faced all season among Power 5 teams. See if you can get going. Maybe that's what you need, is just to face a team that isn't one of the top 20 run defenses in the country. See how they do. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.